Hey, we have Aubrey Marcus on the show today.
Yes, we do.
What's going on with that? That's amazing.
I know, man. I'm excited
He's
for today.
not the same Aubrey Marcus that is like the ONNIT CEO and stuff like. Can't be the same guy, right?
That's the one.
Well, now you got me all nervous.
I know, I'm actually pretty nervous right now.
Why didn't you say anything?
Well, I figured if I didn't say anything, the anxiety and the nervousness won't build. And then, we just get right into it. And I'm like, hey, Mark Bell, Aubrey Marcus, what's up, guys?
And then, yeah, just go.
Right. But yeah, they're ready to go if you are.
I'm ready to rock. I'm super excited to ask him some questions. And, one thing I think that gets kind of pushed to the side is like, I mean, everybody knows he's successful. He's got these books out that are super successful, and he's the founder and CEO of ONNIT. And so we know a lot of these things, but dude, this guy crushes it. Like the ONNIT Academy is absolutely insane. That place is so awesome to go to, and I can't wait to go there again soon. Okay. Let's get him on the horn, huh? Let's see what he's got going on. Yo, look at this guy. Hey.
What's going on, man?
Hey, it's actually Aubrey Marcus. You're right, Andrew.
Yeah, see, I told you.
It really is.
The owner of ONNIT. You can't believe it. We got him on the horn here. This is awesome. How you doing, my man?
I'm doing good, brother. I'm doing good. Let me just figure out how to get my mic situated properly so you guys can hear me well. How's my audio coming through?
Audio sounds good, buddy.
Okay, good.
You sound good, and you look even better. What are you sipping on over there?
Oh, green juice.
Oh, there we go. Getting in some vitamins, some minerals for the start of your day.
Yeah, you know it.
So I want to just kind of dive in on some of this, and there's a million different interesting things to talk about. But one thing I want to chat with you about is I want to talk to you a little bit about kids and kind of today's society, but I also want to kind of go back in time. We'll use the time machine, go back in time and talk to you a little bit about your own childhood and your own experiences growing up and kind of what turned you into what you are now. And so what was your upbringing like?
Well, it was interesting. As early as I can remember, my mother and father got divorced. So they were only together a few short years, just long enough to have me and then separate. So they separated when I was about 2 years old. So I had two distinct households that I grew up in, and pretty quickly got two really interesting and awesome step parents. So I always really, even from a young age, considered that a blessing, because not only did I have my father, who was very kind of logical, cerebral, commodities trader background, my mother, who was a ex-professional tennis player, and then my stepdad, who was a real contrast to my father, who was a SWAT team squad leader and then turned inventor businessman. And then my stepmother was a naturopathic doctor. So I really got to expose myself to a lot of different, your parents are kind of your first mentors, right? So got to expose myself to a whole gamut of different fields and areas of expertise and understanding, and very different environments too. With my mother, I was out on some land with some horses out in the valley, and my father, I was in a big house on the beach, and it's just a lot of different environments. And I think that kind of opened my mind to the possibility of continuing to learn and grow. And my grandma played a big part in all that too. She was amazing. I have her tattooed on my arm, actually. But it was just like a really well-rounded experience that still had plenty of challenges. I think kids, you can curse the challenges you have, or you can thank them as blessings. My dad had a lot of anger and a lot of judgment and a lot of the things that a lot of fathers have. But ultimately, that combination of love plus pressure plus the open-mindedness of all of those different, early mentors and my parents, yielded a result that I can say I'm super blessed to have had.
Did you have a lot of encouragement and nourishment from the family to, kind of be a free thinker, be creative, do things a little differently, go to the beat of your own drum, maybe?
Yes and no. I mean, I think there was, especially for my mom, there was always love there and support for that. My father was more traditional, wanted me to go into finance, wanted me to find a path that he knew and could understand. But was ultimately supportive of the decisions that I would make, but certainly like definitely wanted me to get a job at Goldman Sachs, and that really wasn't for me. So, yeah, so it's kind of a combination.
Now you had a lot of different jobs over the years. You tried a bunch of different things. Some things
hmm
didn't quite stick the way that you wanted. How did this idea of having this supplement company that are really optimizing people's health? How did that come to be?
Well, I did try a lot of things, and most of them failed. To be honest, it was a litany of failure that I really in all these things I tried, and I think it was because I was trying to create something that the market would like, and I was trying to like build this widget or build this thing that somebody would find valuable, and then the difference with Onnit was this was something that I was genuinely passionate about. I mean, I was and have been taking supplements for performance, whether it was on the basketball court or taking a test in school or, all through my life. I've been doing these things, optimizing my health and performance from when I was young. And it's something that I am extremely passionate about. And I think that was the difference with Onnit. The difference was this was something that I loved. I was making products for me. And that's just a much more potent position to be in.
Yeah, you've mentioned in the past that it had to kind of serve your purpose, and I think that's a really wonderful message to get out there to people that what you're doing, if it does serve your purpose, then maybe it's going to be that much easier to stick with it. Maybe it'll be that much easier to create a great product, to create a great brand. Is that right?
hmm Yeah, totally. I mean, I think if you're not a customer of your company, you're going to have a hard time. You're going to really have a hard time because you're always going to be imagining what that customer would want and creating an avatar and wondering if that avatar likes it rather than just wondering like, hey, do I like this? Do I use this?
You talk about a lot of stuff that I don't hear a lot of other men talk about. You talk a lot about love. You talk a lot about fear. You talk a lot about joy and happiness and sadness, and you kind of go down these kind of deep tunnels that
Hmm.
for a lot of us guys, is not a
Sometimes too
safe
deep.
not a safe place to go to sometimes, and then especially with what Onnit Academy represents, and you guys are heavily tied into the MMA background and UFC and things like that. These things that we kind of perceived to be masculine or macho, and none of us ever get sad, and none of us can talk about relationships. And you go the exact opposite way, and you share a lot of information on relationships. What do you think? What do you think you're trying to maybe like uncover, discover, or share with your audience about relationships, about love?
Well, the thing is that I'm not trying to share particularly anything with my audience. Like this isn't a strategy of like, oh, let me do this so I can share this story. This is my story and it's my journey to uncover my own fears and my own desires for love and the purest form of love, the highest expression of love that I can find. And my commitment, is to just share what I'm experiencing, share what I'm going through. And, so I've been, I jumped into this open relationship experiment with my fiance, Whitney, and it's been one of the most challenging and rewarding experiences I've ever gone through. I mean, nothing has ever been harder than that. And I joke around. This past year was definitely the hardest year. 2018 was the hardest year. It was also a year I got into a car wreck and a guardrail came through my windshield and split my face in half. And I woke up in the hospital. And I jokingly say, like, let me tell you the hardest thing that happened to me in 2018. It was when I got into the car wreck, because the emotional challenges of the relationship were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Really, I mean, there were so many challenging elements and deep insecurities and fears and needs for validation that I had to confront that I don't think I ever would have been able to confront if I didn't allow that the pressure of this type of relationship to expose where I had these insecurities and expose where I had these fears. So yeah, it's been something that I've been pretty open about, and that's again just my commitment to it. And it's not like, and then some people really appreciate and enjoy hearing it, and some people are like, shut the fuck up already. Like, we don't care. Do what you want. And I'm like, I know, sorry, but like, what else am I going to talk about? What do you want me to talk about? Like, you want me to talk about fucking weightlifting today? I don't care about weightlifting today. I cared about weightlifting like a week ago, but not today. And today I'm like weightlifting for my heart, So, it's just, and I think it's just releasing that idea of needing to, have some grand strategy and just saying like, look, I'm a human. I'm going through stuff. A lot of times that's going to resonate with what you're going through. And so I'm just going to talk about it.
You seem like, you're a very enlightened person, for lack of a better term. And I think when you run into people that are enlightened, you kind of recognize, you run into someone like a Paul Chek or a Kyle Kingsbury, like you realize these people are different thinkers than maybe kind of the ordinary person that really is focused on their 9 to 5. They're focused on where their next paycheck's coming from, and maybe they got kind of caught up in really just paying attention to the day to day, and they can't really think a lot deeper than that, or just never have, or never been exposed to it. What are some things that you've been exposed to over the last couple of years that have really helped you, grow, physically, mentally, in all aspects of your life?
Well, I mean, I've been on a pretty consistent ceremonial plant medicine journey since I was 18. It started with a vision quest with psilocybin
AKA
in the
getting
mountains.
high.
Yeah, well, that's definitely one way to look at it. I mean, sometimes it's getting real low,
Right.
that's the interesting thing. Like, high has that connotation that it's going to be fun, but you do ayahuasca in the jungle. Most of the time, it's not going to be fun. Most of the time, you're going to be confronting your deepest, darkest fears in the scariest place, pitch black in the middle of a jungle with someone singing songs that are 3,000 years old in the pitch dark as you're nauseous, vomitous, think you're going to die, might be shitting your pants, and reality is slipping really quickly. That experience I wouldn't call exactly getting high. That's really getting low and deep
Right.
and in. So some of those experiences have been really valuable. And then there's been also, the lighter experiences like the meditations and the stillness and the floating sensory deprivation tanks and time in nature. And then there's been the learning, the great books that I've been able to read, books by like Ted Decker and Paul Selig and some of my spiritual mentors. So it's been kind of a combination of these like experiential practices, and that could be plant medicine, that could be sweat lodge, that could be, and then the kind of daily practices like meditation, yoga, stillness, and then the learning, and then I mean it's just that whole kind of gamut of all of the different ways, and just being open-minded and not feeling like you have to defend who you were yesterday. Like, know that, you called me enlightened, but really I realize pretty much every week what a dumbass I was the week prior. So I don't know if I would necessarily agree with you, because it's like, man, I was an idiot last week, and man, I was an idiot the week after that. Because it's always just deeper levels of awakening, and you awaken to your own patterns and fears and programming and all of these things. So it's a journey that seemingly doesn't really end.
You kind of mentioned defending your past. I really like that message. That's awesome. Something that I'm fascinated with is people trying to make changes, people trying to make progress. I define success as simply just making progress from where you were before. And I think we can all agree that each person possesses the ability to make some sort of progress. They possess the ability to take one foot and put it in front of the other. And we're at all different points in our life. We're at different stages in our life. There's some people that are where the rock is, and there's some people that that aren't, right? But
some people who are just a rock.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. What I'm fascinated with is this ability to try to make positive changes in your life, and to, maybe for so many Americans, it's just to lose weight. It's a simple act of, quote unquote, simple act of losing weight is something that a lot of people are just trying to do. One thing that I think that is really connected to losing weight is that you're the byproduct of everything that you ever heard about yourself. You're the byproduct of everything that you ever thought about yourself. You're the byproduct of everything that you think other people think about you. So you end up in this really tough spot, and it's not really just this caloric mystery of trying to figure out how to burn calories and what to eat. And it gets to be so tied into like your DNA. It's so tied into like every cell in your body. And yes, you can just say, "Hey, man, just stop, just stop eating so much food. You'll make some progress. You'll lose some weight." But it's so much harder than that. And so, what are some things that you've seen through fitness, being able to help change people's lives and be able to maybe give them some new perspective on where they can get their lives locked in and they can kind of take themselves on a different journey, maybe?
Well, I think you really have to understand that you are not tethered to your past, and you're not tethered to what people think about you. And at any point, you can actively, volitionally, with your own intention, cut the ties to all of that and say, today I am a different person. Like today I am a little different than I've ever been, and I'm going to strike out and do things differently today and think about things differently, and fuck what everybody else thinks about me. Fuck, they only know the old me. And as someone who's transformed a lot in my life, like I even changed my name when I was 30 years old. I took my grandfather's name, which was really my middle name. I used to go by Chris. Now I go by Aubrey. And there'll be some people who want to show me how long they've known me and will try to keep calling me my old name. And I'm like, I get it. Like you knew me back then, but that's not like it's not me. So I know what you're doing, but like, just call me my name. This is my name now. This is like what I want to be called. And so but people will always hold on to your past, the way they knew you and the way that they were comfortable knowing you. So you can't allow that to make you conform to the place they want to put you. Like if they want to put you in this room, like you don't have to stay in that room. You can evolve, and eventually they'll either be comfortable with you as you actually are, or they won't be, and they'll find their way out of your life. But don't allow somebody else's opinion. But I think more important, it's our own opinion of ourselves. We think we are the person we've always been, and we don't have to be. We can be somebody different. And I think that was one of the premises of my book, Own the Day, Own Your Life, was like, fuck all of everything that's happened. Let's just do one day. Like, just do one day different. Just decide this fucking day is going to be different than yesterday. And here's the ways that it's going to happen. And then maybe you'll string another one of those days. Maybe the next time you do a day like that, it's a week later, whatever. But like, how to do a good day. And then that starts to build the habit and the habituation for a different understanding of the self. And then you'll start looking at yourself differently. Like, one example, if you think you're afraid and you don't think you have a lot of courage and the willpower to change, when you go in to take your hot shower, turn the nozzle all the way cold. Just do that. And not only will you have the benefit of taking a cold shower, but you'll also look at yourself a little differently. You'll look at yourself like, oh, I'm kind of a badass. I just turned that shower nozzle cold and took a cold shower even when I didn't want to. And like, you'll already start thinking about yourself differently. And so that moment, you are a different person. You're a person with a little more courage that And so I think things can shift kind of quickly.
Why did you change your name?
Well, there's a bunch of reasons, actually. So my legal name was Michael Marcus, which is my father's name. So everybody started calling me Chris Marcus. So, but on all my like driver's license, everything was Michael Aubrey Christopher Marcus. And so I would like check into a hotel, or I would register for something, or I'd pull out my driver's license and it was Michael, and I'd never been called Michael my whole life. So that was a mess. And then I just honestly, Chris was a random name that was made up, but Aubrey was my grandfather. He was my grandfather on my mother's side. And even though I hadn't got to meet him because he died before I was born, I'd always felt a connection with him through the books. His favorite books were my favorite books. Like the way that he looked at life was always told it was similar to mine. So I just decided it was either to change my name officially to Chris, or I could make a different change. And I decided to change it to Aubrey. And it also coincided with my first big ayahuasca journey, which kind of marked the timing. And that was me basically saying, like, I went through this really intense experience down in Peru. And I said, okay, from this day forward, I'm a different person. And as a signifier of that, I'm going to do my name change now. A lot of people like to romanticize that story about me and say, like, I did ayahuasca and changed my name. Like, that was part of it. But that was just the moment that I decided to do the thing that I was already intending to do for, convenience purposes. But yeah, I mean, I think it was a really powerful point where I got to kind of put Chris and all of his old bad habits and all of his old insecurities and fears and needs and depressions and all of that. And I got to put a little line in the sand. Not that I didn't bring a lot of that shit still forward with me, but I got to put a little line in the sand and say, okay, I'm leaving that part behind. It may take me a while to leave that place, but this is my intention.
What are these ceremonies like? The only thing I that pops up into my head, and I've never gone through any of this, but like the only thing that pops up in my head that I can think of that would be remotely similar to what our audience can maybe digest would be like sobriety. So like from that day forward, when you changed your name and obviously you did mention that you carried some things forward with you, into your new self, I guess you'd say. But what was it kind of like that experience of like
Sure.
like I'm not gonna fall into these bad habits again. These are my new habits. I'm a new person.
Sure. It was. It wasn't as binary as sobriety. Sobriety is really black and white, right? So it's like either you put the drink to your lips or you don't. It's like either you take the pill or you don't take the pill. That is like it's black or white, it's off or on, it's 1 or 0, it's binary. Whereas when you're trying to make deep emotional change, psychological change, or even physical change, even a diet, something like that, like very rarely can you say like, all right, I'm going keto and I'm not eating any carbs. And then you actually don't eat any carbs. Usually you'll start transitioning and have a little more fats and whatever. And psychologically, emotionally, it's even slipperier. You could say like, all right, I'm not going to beat myself up anymore. I'm not going to call myself a loser anymore. And, it's a good intention and it might make some help, but something's going to happen and you're still going to slip back into that emotional muscle memory, those emotional patterns that you've developed. You just have to have a little bit more awareness and a little bit more ability to transform that and rise above those tendencies.
So a lot of people think these psychedelic drugs and some of the things that you talk about often, a lot of people just think, this is just an escape from reality or however they want to put it. A lot of people just think it's weird. Let's just say it that way, I guess. And, I know that for you and for a lot of other people, it's not about that. You're mentioning it as medicine. And yeah, I'm
Mhm.
sure occasionally, like you just do something, have a drink, or you smoke some marijuana or something, and it's just purely just because for relaxation, maybe for social
Sure.
purposes, things of that nature. But I think most of the time, what I'm hearing you talk about is these different medications and these different mushrooms and different things. They can just take you to places that maybe otherwise you can't figure out how to get to on your own. Is that kind of how it works?
Yeah, absolutely. It'll open up, different ways of thinking, different insights. It'll move behind blockages. Like you could have what appears like a stone wall, a brick wall in your mind, an area that you can't go past. And, taking a psychedelic can allow you to elevate above and see beyond that position. It can allow you to actually see that what looked like a an unbroken chain in the wall actually was separated by 10 feet and there was a little place that you could go, behind it. And it'll just allow you to see things from a radically different perspective a lot of times. And sometimes that means I'm really looking at your fear, the things that you're afraid of. I'm afraid of dying. I'm afraid of not being worthy enough. I'm afraid of, or I have trauma around these certain things. And it's not only the kind of anecdotal, experiential stories from these psychedelics. Now we got like really good research, MAPS and Hefter are putting these through phase 2 clinical trials. Psilocybin has been shown to cure end-of-life anxiety in 80% of the people it's been given to, and that's the active ingredient in mushrooms. And MDMA is curing, we're not talking about treating, curing 2 out of 3 people who have treatment-resistant post-traumatic stress disorder. And this just got fast-tracked by the FDA. So these are going to be legal drugs and actually recognized as medicines within the next 3 years, a lot of them. And there's so many others for addiction and for different other purposes, because really we need tools to be able to see ourselves and see why we're doing things in a really powerful way in order to change. Like if we're blinding ourselves to the choices we're making, then we're not going to be able to have any agency over them. We're not going to be able to change them. And I think psychedelics do a really good job of shifting your perspective so that you can, get some of that agency and free will back.
A bodybuilder might take growth hormone, or power lifter might take growth hormone, steroids, all these different things for muscle growth. But what you're referring to is probably an expansion of your mind, an expansion of your soul,
Mm-hmm.
maybe an expansion of your spirit, something
Mm-hmm.
along those lines.
Well, the interesting thing is like, I don't know if any of that stuff actually expands. It's just, it might always be there in its fullest, most perfect form, but we're just obscuring it. It's like saying, did the clouds make the sun go away? No, they just blocked the view and the vantage of the sun. And I think really what these things are doing is they're starting to move the clouds around so that we can see the truth of who we are and the truth of our spiritual and beauty, and I don't, so yes, in a way, it feels like you're getting spiritual growth, but really maybe you're just removing the spiritual blinding and all of the, clouds that we've put in the way of really seeing the truth of who we are.
I think when I was on your podcast, you were mentioning some of these drugs, even assisting people coping with traumatic life experiences such as rape and things of that nature.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, this is treatment-resistant post-traumatic stress disorder, and this goes from first responders like firefighters and police officers to military to people with deep childhood trauma. And there's people who've tried those cocktails of 10 different pharmaceutical drugs, and it hasn't been able to even touch their PTSD. And, they rank these PTSD scores, and maybe it'll move it down from a 65 to a 60 when they're on 10 drugs with a bunch of side effects, but it's still a deep and devastating part of their expression in life. And then on 3 MDMA assisted psychotherapy sessions, which is run by an organization called MAPS, MAPS.org, people will be cured of their trauma. Their trauma scores will go below the threshold, like below 10, below the threshold of where they would even categorize it as post-traumatic stress disorder, and continue to get better even without the continued use of the drug. So in follow-up longitudinal studies about these patients who've gone through the process, they just continue to even get better as the years go on, instead of it getting worse or compounding or staying the same. So it's a legitimate cure. And that's a paradigm we don't have too often in medicine. I mean, we have it with antibiotics, I guess, right? Like you take a 10-day cycle and you actually cure your strep throat. But for most of the psychological conditions, they're creating dependencies. And, this is an area to kind of break that paradigm and break through that paradigm. And it's no longer dependency. We're talking about curing and then allowing the body to continue to clean up the mess.
I've been around some people before that are into some of the things you're into, and when it comes to something like alcohol, they really don't drink it that often. And I've asked them why, and they just say, well, it's just not my first choice. And it kind of is just an interesting topic because alcohol is like so accepted by society. It's not a big deal, right? And marijuana, I guess, is getting more and more acceptance over the years. But it's just really interesting that somebody like they'll freak out about like a mushroom or something, but meanwhile,
Right.
they might be on a bunch of different weird medications that they don't even know the names of, and
Right.
and like, dude, like you're so weird. Why are you doing that shit? And it's like they're on a bunch of crap themselves, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's this strange thing where, we're transitioning from this paradigm where we think, oh yeah, the government knows best, and the media outlets are really have our best interest in mind. And as you start to realize, oh, actually no, they all have their own agendas and their own fears, and actually that's not the best place of information and advice. The food pyramid is a fucking joke. Like when you're actually looking at what's nutritionally valid, and so is the scheduling of these drugs. Like the fact that marijuana was scheduled the way it was, and then some of these highly addictive painkillers are scheduled the way they are and treated like one is okay and acceptable and the other isn't, is like, it's really mind-boggling. And it just exposes the fact that, all right, well, we have to think for ourselves, basically, and that's the lesson that I think a lot of us are learning, but we don't realize how much patterning and programming has been put in place to reinforce a lot of these bad ideas.
And a lot of these drugs have to be highly respected too, right? I mean, these are not some of the ayahuasca and things like that. These are not things that you just haphazardly light yourself up with, right?
I've never seen anybody recreationally take ayahuasca. It's not fun. You feel nauseous. You might shit your pants, and you typically confront your worst fears. Now, you might have a pleasurable experience, and it might be like you might be speaking to spirit guides and traveling the celestial plane, bouncing off stars. Like that happens sometimes. Most of the time, you're going to be in your shit. Like literally and metaphysically, and so it's funny when people, even people who are sober will be like, well, I don't do drugs, I'm sober. I'm like, this is not doing drugs the same way or drinking alcohol the same way that you think it is. This is not you doing this recreationally. You're not going to get addicted to this. I fucking promise you. You know what I mean? Like and it's not for everybody. And I'm not saying everybody should. And I think if people have, definitely don't do it if you're not called to it and it doesn't sound right, and be really careful where you do it, because these are really powerful experiences. And so, I think I used to be more of an advocate, like everybody's got to try this. And now I'm like, no, like only try it if you really, really want to, and you really have a good set and setting, because these are really powerful things that shouldn't be trifled with. But going back to my point, like it almost brings a hyper consciousness rather than, people talk about, oh, I was drinking so much, I blacked out, I don't remember what I did. It's like the opposite. You have memories of these things and a knowledge of yourself that's even greater than any time you've ever had. You feel actually more in control of your own faculties than ever before, a lot of times on these medicines and psychedelics. So it's a really different paradigm, and it's a shame that they all kind of get lumped in the same category, because I drink too, and I drink, and I've done plenty of recreational things, and they're different, and you just treat them different, and like you recognize how different they are. And when you have the experiences of both of them, you realize like, okay, this one's recreational and this one, isn't. Now, it doesn't mean that someone can't use some of these medicines recreationally. And even I have, like, I've taken mushrooms at a festival just for the music, and it was its own form of celebration ceremony, but I've stopped doing that because I have such a reverence for mushrooms and psilocybin as a medicine that I don't want to use it recreationally anymore. But it is possible to use these things recreationally. I'm not saying it's not possible, but with the right intention, it can really yield the maximum benefit. And I do think that it isn't possible to do something like ayahuasca recreationally. It just doesn't lend itself to the pleasure ride.
What do you think the most misunderstood thing is about an open marriage, open relationship?
Everything. I mean, everything. Like, people think it means you don't love each other. People think it means you're disloyal. People think it means you're a sex fiend. People have all of these ideas that are just not true. I mean, I think me and Whitney have been in an open relationship for 5 years, and she's actually off seeing her boyfriend now in the Bahamas. Left this morning, and for most people on the outside, like, oh my God, that's devastating. Like, how could you handle it? And it was for a while, to be frank. And that's what I was talking about earlier. The 5 hardest things that weren't my near-death crash accident last year. Like, I had to deal with a lot of different stuff, but these are things that you can overcome with love for her, love for myself, love for her enjoyment of life and her experience, and love for my own enjoyment of life and my experience. These are things that can be overcome. These aren't things that are permanent. These are things that we've created. And I feel like, when we've done that, it's created a much deeper, freer love than we've ever had. And you want to talk about, what's really loyal and what's not, and what's really faithful and what's not. Like, talk about honesty. I mean, I literally get to have a 100% honest relationship with Whitney, where if I want to have sex with somebody or I am having sex with somebody, we can talk about it. And if she wants to have sex with somebody or is having sex, we can talk about it. If we find someone attractive, of course we talk about it, because we're able to even have sex with them if we want. And we're able to what is there possibly to fucking lie about anymore? And so you want to talk about fidelity, we are absolutely acting in each other's accord, but people think that is an attribute of your fucking genitals, when really it's an attribute of your honesty and an attribute of your heart. And so I think that's one of the biggest misunderstandings. Now, again, just like with these psychedelics, am I saying everybody should be in an open relationship? Fuck no. It's been so hard. It's been grueling and brutal and one of the most difficult things, but it has been the thing, just like these psychedelics, that have taught me the most about myself and given me the most growth. So you just have to be ready for the challenges and understand that, all right, this is going to hurt a lot, but it's going to teach me some things that I may not ever get to learn otherwise.
Must be a huge learning curve with all that,
man.
right? I mean, what you can talk about, and maybe because you said you can be very open, but you also probably don't want to be hurtful, and you might say something about someone else and it might make the other person, might cause some jealousy and some things like that. So do you guys have some things that are, there's got to be some things that are a little bit out of bounds, or, you might have to say, hey, look, that kind of bugs me too much to hear, or I can't handle it or something?
Yeah, I mean, you start off with a lot of rules and a lot of caution. But actually the caution, you can sense it in the other person. It's actually more terrifying than the truth, to be honest. Right. So if Whitney has, let's propose a really challenging example, right? Like Whitney has a first sex experience with a new lover, right? So she's sleeping with somebody for the first time. And, if I ask, so how was it? And we don't share a lot of the nitty gritty details, but if I ask, how was it? And she goes, oh yeah, fine. And kind of like gets weird about it. I'm going to be like, what the fuck happened? That must've been cause I'll sense that she's holding something back. Right.
Right.
And I'll sense that it's a big deal. Whereas if she's like, yeah, it was really good. Everything was good. And it feels truthful and honest. And I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah. Really good. That's good.
Right.
And it feels more comfortable. Right. And so we can sense this kind of withholding and this dishonesty, and it actually, our brain and our imagination will magnify it 1,000 times into something much worse than actual truth. So it's I have this saying that I've developed from being in an open relationship. It's worse than you hope, but better than you think. Right? So you always hope that it's oh, I hope it was terrible, and I hope he had a micro penis, and I hope that was, I mean, I don't hope that anymore, because I genuinely want her happiness. But early in the days, you have those competitive things, and it's never that. It's worse than you hope, but it's better than you think. He's also not, just slaying with a, huge, it's not that bad. So
over here, we call it a katana.
yeah, exactly.
Slaying it with a katana. It must, like I said, it must be a huge learning curve, and it must take a lot of time. How long have you guys been together for?
We've been together 7 years. The first 2 were monogamous, and the last 5 were open.
And then where did this idea come from, and how did it get proposed?
Well, it came from first an understanding that I read Dr. Chris Ryan's book, Sex at Dawn, and started to understand the true nature of human sexual history and anthropology and biology. And that was the kind of first kind of eye-opening experience, being oh, well, women do want sex as much as men. And actually, in the historical records, except for maybe the last 5 or 10,000 years, there was a much different viewpoint on female sexuality in particular. Because I had this kind of idea that we were all supposed to be like a pride of lions, or a herd of cows with one bull, and the bull fought off the other bulls, and the women didn't, get to have any other men. And I was in this kind of paradigm where that was my model, and then because that's what's kind of been played out in our kind of popular culture too. And but I felt my own desire for new experience and novelty and to experience other people, but I was kind of committed to my own morality of honesty. So I wasn't a cheater ever, but I would end up just splitting up with people. And I was feeling that urge to split up with Whitney after the first 2 years, just because it was like, I'm ready to go experience something else and go experience something new and see what else is out there. And that was just kind of my natural urge. But instead I'd read that book and I was like, and I'd also through all my philosophical and spiritual work started to understand that love can be viewed in abundance and that you don't need to possess love. And in fact, you can't possess love because love is wild in its nature. And I always use the example, like if a mother has her second child, no one says, how does it feel to love your first child half as much now that you have your second one? You know what I mean? Like everybody's like, oh, well, she loves them both the same and as much, So I had these philosophical ideas and I had the sexual historical underpinnings from Sex at Dawn. And I had my own imperative that I was either going to break up or I needed to do something that would change this paradigm of breaking up in 18-month cycles, 18-month to 2-year cycles, which I've done habitually my whole life. So I could go experience something else and sometimes get back together with that person after I've had my experience, So I just suggested open relationship. And at first, Whitney was like, fuck no, like, see you later. And so we actually split up for 3 months. And then eventually she was like, you know what? Like, I think I might like this too, because she's open about this. She cheated on every boyfriend she'd ever been with. And, not me supposedly, but who knows? Maybe that's one level of truth we haven't got to yet. But she's understood her own desire for novelty and her own desire for new experience as well. And so we decided to embark on the journey, and we did. We were kind of like fumbling around in the dark, like trying to figure shit out. And we had some guidance, fortunately, but there's never enough guidance in something that's as uncharted as this. So you learn from a lot of experience. You learn what hot is by putting your hand in a fire. You learn where there's, low clearance for your head by smashing your face on things. And, we're just fumbling around, figuring stuff out. And I think I'm finally feeling like we're in a place where we've got enough figured out that we can really enjoy this. But it's been a hell of a journey.
I got a visual of all of our listeners buying that book and being like, hey, babe, come check out this book.
Yeah. Trying
to read it to them every night.
And but so it's a funny thing because I mentioned this to a lot of my guy friends and it's so public. Everybody knows now who knows me. And they're like, oh man, sounds amazing. You get to sleep with other girls. I was like, yeah, cool. Yeah. That's amazing. But imagine the girl you fucking love. And imagine some dude you don't know getting to fuck her, and you're at home alone all night as she's out in bed with him, and the next morning with him. Like, you cool with that? Yeah. Because if you're cool with that, then this might be for you. And they're like, fuck no, I'm not cool with that. Right. Like, never. And that's the paradox, right? Like, it's obviously everybody knows their own desires, but it's hard to cope and manage with your partner exercising those same desires. It's like one thing to say like, oh, I could do it and I would still love you, but they can't do it because they won't love me. We have this kind of double standard, and it goes both sides. It goes both for men and women.
Hey, Aubrey, you and Whitney have been engaged for a little while now. If you guys move on to the next step and become husband and wife, is this open relationship thing going to continue on through marriage as well?
I think that the thing about being open is it's not like a religion where you have to, officially change and go to a different church. And like, it's a dramatic change. If we go from open to monogamous, it's like a big deal. We have to fucking make an announcement and do a ceremony or something like that. Like at any point we could just decide not to see other lovers and then we're monogamous by default. Right. But I don't think there'll ever be a point where one of us would go to the other one and say like, hey, I met this person and I really want to like experience what it would be like to be with this person. And us go like, no fucking way. Like that's never going to be the case. But can I imagine periods of a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, maybe indefinitely, where we're just like, nah, we're good. Like, I'm not called to be with anybody right now. And so like, I could for sure imagine that, but I think it's just bringing monogamy back to being a choice. And it's just a choice that we could choose at any point and may choose at different points. And that's going to be kind of the way we're going to roll with it.
You guys have different dating apps on your phone. You're both sitting next to each other, swiping left and right.
That would be funny. Yeah. I mean, I think there's obviously like, one of the things that happens is that you start to really prioritize and enjoy the time you do have together, because when you have another person and you're not with each other constantly, then the time that you have together once again becomes precious. It's like the start of a relationship again, so when she gets back from the Bahamas and her boyfriend and I see her again, it's going to be like, yay, like we get to see each other. So actually the phones don't even come out of the purse, they don't even come out of the pocket. It's like, and not just like they wouldn't on a date in an early relationship, right? And so that's the beautiful part. But then, again, like we're together, we spend 30 days in a row together, like we just did basically. And, by the end, by week 4 of that stretch, we're kind of back to that comfortable, slightly taking each other for granted kind of way. It's just normal for people to do that. You kind of just take each other for granted. And then this adds that kind of break and that time apart and that, kind of freshness of experience, so that then reconnection, a lot of that passion and a lot of that excitement to be around each other that people miss in a relationship comes rushing back. And that's one of the real benefits. There's a lot of pain, as I mentioned, but that's one of the real benefits, is appreciating your partner just like you did when you first met her.
What are some things that have really helped grow on it? I know the company's been around for quite some time now, and you have about 150 employees or so. Last time I was down there, you just got like room after room of cool shit going on. You got the MACE classes going on. You got kettlebell certifications. You got all kinds of different things going on throughout the facility. A lot of awesome employees that were showing me around, and it looks like you have just an amazing team. What's something that maybe you've done in the last maybe few years that really helps you hone in on the business and turn it into what it's becoming?
Well, I think it's staying true to that same North Star. Like, I don't put out anything that I wouldn't be a customer of. We don't put out articles that I wouldn't be a reader of. We don't put out products that I don't use. It's just really following the path of like, what is something that I find fucking awesome? And like, what are the things that other people that I know would find fucking awesome? Like, whether it's an athlete or whether it's one of our influencers, whether it's me, like, what are the things that we collectively love? And just using that really as our North Star and trying to be as true and authentic to our customers and each other as possible. And really help people understand that this idea behind ONNIT isn't just, some kind of paper mache marketing front, to try it. This is really, ONNIT means something. It means something to the people here. It means something to me, and it, means something to so many of our customers. And I think that's what's really important, is that there's substance to what we're doing.
The timing of everything is really interesting, because you mentioned how you had a few things that weren't successful. You failed a bunch of times, and I've heard you say that the young Aubrey Marcus wouldn't have been able to handle ONNIT, wouldn't have been able to run it and execute it effectively. And then the timing of meeting Joe Rogan, I think, as you were, forging these products together, as you were making Alpha Brain and things like that. And I think it was even before Joe even had a podcast, right? So the timing of these things just seems incredible. But it's, for people that are struggling right now and they're kind of going through a hard time trying to figure things out, the stuff that you're going through, there's a lot of deep-seated reasons for it. And maybe it's maybe these setbacks and some of the things you go through, maybe it's just a setup for something big in the future, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to respect that where you are right now might be exactly the place you're meant to be. I I think there's a great quote by a Sufi poet. His name is Hafez. And Hafez says, where you are right now, God circled that spot for you on a map. Like, and it's this idea, like, no matter what you're going through, even if you're struggling with addiction, even if you're struggling with bills and depression or anything that you're going through, like, yeah, this is not the place that you want to be forever. Like, it's okay to acknowledge that, but it's also okay to acknowledge that maybe this is exactly the place you need to be so you can learn the lessons and become the person who's overcome those challenges. Like, these challenges that are here are your opportunity to become the person that overcame these challenges. And so where you are right now, however low and however bad it is exactly the place you're supposed to be. And it's exactly the timing that's supposed to happen. Like you said, if I would have had ONNIT 5 years earlier, I think I would have screwed it up because my ego was too big and my desire to be successful was too big. Like, I needed to be able to hold the truth of what we stand for, and be strong enough myself internally to be able to run this company. So, everything happened in the timing and the way that it absolutely should. And I think we all look back at our lives and can say that for the most part in hindsight, like, yeah, everything was perfect. But in the moment, we're like, everything sucks. I suck and everything sucks. Whereas, we just don't have that hindsight yet, that using foresight, to give you the proper, using hindsight as foresight, right? Like being able to look towards the future of your life the same way that you look back at the past of your life and recognize that I'm grateful for everything that happened. Well, I'm grateful for everything that will happen because one day that will be my hindsight. You know what I mean? And that's, I think, the perspective we need to take. And that's really challenging, but when you can get there and trust that where you are right now is where you're supposed to be, it takes a lot of that pain away.
How did this strong relationship and strong tie to Joe Rogan come to be?
So I admired him. I saw his comedy and his podcast did start and started listening to his podcast. And I noticed he didn't have any advertisers on his podcast. And I'd kind of seen him after a comedy show. And I really felt like we could have some really cool conversations. We were both into the same shit. But it's hard when you're just a fan to do it. So I was like, well, I have a company, Fleshlight, who is a company I was representing in my marketing company. And maybe Joe will accept them as an advertiser on his podcast. And so I set up a meeting and to work out the details for that. And that meeting that was a 30-minute business meeting turned into a 4-hour dinner, and where we just talked about aliens and super volcanoes and just became friends. And so we were friends for 2 or 3 years. And then one day I asked him, hey, Joe, what supplement would you like to take the most? And he said, all natural cognitive enhancer, nootropic. And that was actually the reason why I created Alpha Brain in the first place, was that Joe said that would be the supplement he wanted to take the most. And that was the start of our business partnership.
That's pretty damn awesome. What do you think has given people more satisfaction, your Fleshlight or ONNIT? Hard to say, right?
Yeah, well, maybe maybe you need a little bit of both, like as you're getting on it and getting your shit together and getting your best self forward, like until then, maybe you're not getting laid, so maybe you need the Fleshlight to kind of hold you over until you are actually your best self and can get out there and feel confident enough to get out there in the market and meet real people.
Do you want to have kids at some point?
It's an interesting question. I know how much of an investment of time and energy and resources you have to put into your kids. And that's time, energy, resources, and vitality that I could also put into my greater mission, my message, my the books that I write, the things, and what is of the greatest value to me and what is of the greatest value to the world. Is it putting all of that energy into a child, or is it continuing to put it all into my book children and my podcast children and my, like all of these other areas? And I haven't really come to a clear conclusion on all that. So we'll see. We'll see. I think I'm 37 now, so obviously for men we got a little longer window. Whitney's still 29, and So she's got at least a couple more years, before we have to really start thinking about that. If Whitney and I stay together, and that looks like a path that we want to explore.
I don't want to take up any more of your time, man. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Is there anything new over there at ONNIT that you want to recommend our audience go pick up on your website, or any new books you got out or anything like that?
No, I mean, I think we're always coming out with new stuff. If you haven't tried our protein bars or protein bites, they're super delicious and under 5 grams of sugar in there. So good for you too, made from 60 different plants. That's something that is kind of a unappreciated gem of what we have here in our offerings. And we got a lot of cool stuff. I'd just say, poke around and look and see if anything captures your fancy. And we got a, really easy liberal return policy. So if you don't like something, just let us know and get your money back, So, but I know that there's things in here that you'll love because, me and you aren't that different. We're all humans, and, this stuff is awesome. I use it all the time. So I have a lot of confidence that you'll enjoy it.
What's been the hardest part of getting this supplement company off the ground?
Well, there's just learning the unknown, is really the hardest part. It's just knowing that you have to do your best based on the information that you have, and then know that information is going to improve, and know that you're going to be wrong sometimes, and you're going to make bets on things and that aren't going to work out and aren't going to pan out. And it's just that willingness to continue to move forward and learn, and not try to back up your wrong mistakes, and just be honest and truthful about the whole process.
Again, I appreciate your time. I get so much out of listening to your podcast, some of the interviews that you did with Paul Chek. And then I know Andrew over here has been a huge fan of yours for a very long time. He's read your book, and we get a lot of great information from you. You're a great resource, and you're a great person to meet and to rub elbows with. Appreciate you a lot, man.
Thank you, brother. Yeah, I appreciate you too, man. It's been great to hang and chat on both of these venues now. So I'm excited.
All right, man. Have a great day. Catch you later.
All right. Take care, Mark.
Bye.
See ya.
Well, that didn't suck.
Again, no sucking there.
That was yeah, it's pretty good.
I blinked and I look over. I'm like, dude, we've been going for an hour, and I have a page and a half of questions that I wanted to get in, but no worries. We'll connect with him again. You know what I mean? But no, that was man, dude. I'm shaking over here, man. There's 2 companies on this planet that I love. There's Slingshot, of course, and that's not just because I work here. It's an amazing company, but
and Costco
and ONNIT.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah. No, I mean, before a lot of this started, one of the early podcasts I subscribed to was Joe Rogan's, and then of course, I learned about ONNIT through that, and then I started following ONNIT and started following Aubrey Marcus. You and I went to the ONNIT Academy a couple of years back. That was a crazy experience because I had been there before as just a fan, and I remember what that felt like. And then you were on his podcast, and I was just sitting there holding my camera because that's I was there. We were doing a Hustle Mania vlog, and I just remember thinking like, dude, what the heck is my life like? Like a year prior, I was just doing everything I could just to come visit the place.
Right.
And then there I was getting a full tour, and Aubrey said, yeah, go ahead and grab whatever you guys want from the store, which was crazy.
Oh yeah, that was great.
And then now on the the podcast that I'm a part of, it's like he's on. It's like it's crazy, man. But Aubrey himself is just a really cool dude, and his book is awesome. I'm actually going through the second time right now, going through it again. When he was talking about being in a position where you're not necessarily too fond of, working at a job or whatever it is, he called that smiling through the suck.
Right.
He had a really high paying marketing job, lost it, and then got the offer to go work again. He knew he was going to hate it, but he said, I'm going to bust my ass. I'm going to work this marketing job so that way I can move forward with this. At the time, he didn't know it was ONNIT, but he was going to start this ONNIT supplement company. All he had to do was just save up money and get through the suckiness of his job that he didn't like, but he had a bigger picture in mind. And it's huge. And it's just really cool seeing how, what he was explaining it the way he did today, and just knowing that like, yeah, dude, it all worked out.
He seems like, it's interesting. A lot of the things he talks about, they have this kind of spiritual message behind them. And he talks about all these different books that he read, but one question I was going to ask him was like, has he read the Bible? And also about his faith, because it seems like he's a person of faith. It kind of seems like he's a person of God, but at the same time, sometimes some people that are like him, sometimes they maybe believe in other things, so I don't really know, but he does seem like this principle of being able to like see shit that's not there. I think is very healthy, and like in his situation, he's done it both with psychedelic drugs and without. He had a vision for ONNIT before ONNIT was a thing. I had a vision for Slingshot before we were ever in this building. I always wanted to have everything under one roof. It's been a mission from kind of the very beginning. I also kind of saw a lot of things once I invented the Slingshot. I had like visions of a lot of things being there and a lot of things happening before they ever did. And I think, some people might look down on some of the usage of some of these drugs. But look, man, they take you to spots that you can't otherwise really get to. You can say like, oh, well, like, I feel, a certain way from running, or I feel a certain way from lifting. And we can all kind of understand that. You feel a certain way after you lift. We've talked about how we like to lift with people before we do the podcast, and it gets our endorphins going, and we're all fired up and excited, and it makes for a better show. Well, that's all these drugs are doing. I mean, there's really no reason to look at it any other way, as if you've got to be some weird freak or something to even explore these things. They're, like he said, they might be for some people, they might not be for others. One thing I worry about with drugs is control. I kind of worry, like, and I know what he's saying about some of the heavier things. You're not going to want to take them every day anyway, but that would be one area where I'd be like, I don't know, because like I got a lot of shit I'm responsible for. I got kids, and like I don't know if I'd want to dive into too much of that stuff. And if I did, the worry would be that I'd want to do it too often, because it probably does feel great.
Yeah. I mean, I've heard him. I believe it was on Rogan. He said that he was a like pretty hardcore, not hardcore, but he was an atheist. He was like, "There's no way. There's, this. We are who we are. That's it." Blah blah blah. He, went on I don't know if it was ayahuasca or DMT, but he went on a pretty hardcore trip. And when he came back, and he's just like, "Well, of course. Like, why wouldn't there be? Like, who am I to say that there is or that there isn't? Like, of course it's possible that it that there can be a God." So, for anybody who may be on the religious side thinking like, okay, if you guys want to search for something, this is where you need to be searching. Well, here's one guy who knew for a fact that was not something that he could search for. He takes a DMT trip, and then all of a sudden he's like, well, you know what? It opened up a whole nother side of his brain where that's a possibility.
Right.
Absolutely a possibility. So, I've never dabbled. I've always been interested, just because, I would like, I like nootropics. I have Alpha Brain right here. I like opening up my brain to new things. And so I don't know if it'll ever happen, but it's definitely something that I would like to experience someday.
Well, I mean, look, people take pre-workout, before they go lift, right? Or they drink coffee, and it's to give them a desired effect, to give them a certain effect, to have a certain result on the workout. You're kind of thinking, I'm going to have this pre-workout. It has these ingredients that are going to enhance the workout. So something like Alpha Brain, like why wouldn't you take, like if you want to be creative, or you want to try to, you're trying to write out a business plan, or you're just thinking, and you're listening to podcasts and stuff, and you're trying to kind of had these rituals. Maybe you have a 9 to 5 during the week, but maybe on the weekend, maybe you hit up something like Alpha Brain, or you take something like Kratom, and you sit down with some coffee and you really try to think about the things that you want to change, whether it's your diet or your training, or some business that you want to start. Um, these things, they can open
Hmm.
up. I mean, I think everybody would be in agreement that if we said, hey, go over there and talk to that hot chick over there and try to get her number. Well, all would agree that it'd be a little easier if you had a shot or two in
Right.
you,
Yeah.
before you went over there, right? So it's and this has been proven. I mean, these aren't even things that are. I mean, the reservations that you have about what you're going to say. I mean, it just takes the edge off, right? And I'm not saying that you need to do anything to be creative or to be successful by any means, because you definitely don't necessarily need anything. But a lot of these things can help.
Hmm.
The way that I grew Slingshot, the way I came up with a lot of concepts and ideas was uh, by sitting down in a coffee shop and sipping on some caffeine. Caffeine's a drug; it's a stimulant, right? And so, and even today, like I'm not the kind of person who feels all jacked up if I don't have coffee. But when I have coffee in the morning, it gets my brain zinging. Like it's just different, and I can feel that. It makes a difference. If I'm listening to music, it almost feels like I can hear more of it somehow. It just changes everything a little bit. And so some of these things might have that kind of effect on some of the people listening to the show.
That's definitely how I feel when I take some kratom. Music sounds awesome for
Yeah,
some reason. I
yeah,
don't know what it is.
you hear every little beat and everything going on in there.
Yeah.
We're still working on Mind Bullet over here. We probably have about 2 more weeks before we get a hold of that, and
Hmm.
we'll kind of start to go on our own journey here, I guess, with some supplements and stuff like that. Which it you know it'll be interesting, because kratom is like not it's not accepted. It's not
Hmm.
it's it the you can't just like randomly just buy it with any old credit card online and stuff. So we'll give you guys more information as we get all of our shit together to release that product. But I wouldn't be releasing it if it's something I didn't believe in. It's something I use, um, and it's something I think can really help. It's one of the few things I've taken that I've actually felt.
Right.
And I'd say the same thing about Alpha Brain. It's one of the few products I've actually taken where you're like, oh, okay, like you put on a slingshot and you can bench press more weight. You put it on, it takes pain away from your shoulder, or you can do the same amount of weight maybe for 2 reps, or you can do an extra 10 push-ups, right? The same thing with some supplements. Like I've taken, high doses of like glutamine before. I've taken amino acids and stuff before, and I've taken ketones, and haven't noticed a big difference from really a lot of those things. Haven't noticed a difference between, swigging on MCT oil versus fish oil, or having grass-fed beef versus. I mean, these are things you're probably not going to feel necessarily, but um, things that you don't feel, it's harder to like kind of believe in them.
Hmm.
But these are, kratom is something that you will feel.
Yeah, and both supplements do it without packing in any kind of like caffeine or any kind of jitteriness.
Right.
So that's what's huge to me because I
There's no
know.
calories either. There's
Yeah,
no sugar or no nothing. It's just a capsule.
yeah. So then there you go. The other supplements that want to make you feel something, they usually pack in some kind of stimulant. These are essentially stimulant free, but you
Right.
feel something. So that's huge.
How you doing with your carnivoreness?
I'm struggling.
It's
Uh,
getting to be harder.
yeah. And I apologize for asking Paul before I even consulted
case.
with you about my bowels, but how I didn't want to bring it up because it's like, oh fuck, here goes Andrew again talking about his poop, and of course you're having stomach problems. But yeah, dude, I've been sprinting to the bathroom every time I finish eating,
Oh my god.
and it's I'll get a little descriptive, but like it just seems like I'm pooping out food that's barely even chewed. Like I can see chunks of meat coming out.
Man.
It's weird. So over the weekend, I did a bunch of family things, some funerals, sad stuff, but I'm okay. I was just there for my fiance, and she's there for family.
Yeah.
We're all good, but the big family events, there's going to be a lot of Mexican food.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
so I indulge in some like chips and salsa and stuff, and I finally had a solid poop. And I
There
was
you
like,
go.
okay. But unfortunately, what happens when you have carbs, you kind of want more carbs.
Right.
I didn't do anything weird. I didn't have any bad food. I wanted more stuff. So I had some like some peanuts and what else? I had just a bunch of too much cheese yesterday. So I'm feeling fine today, but I got nothing but ribeyes for the diet today or for lunch today.
There you go.
Gonna hop back on, but otherwise my weight is down. My stomach's getting nice and flat. That could be due to the fasting and stuff like
And the
that,
pooping.
and of course the pooping. But strength wise, I think I'm okay. I know I missed the bench yesterday, but that has more to do with my shoulder than anything,
Right.
because the close grip kind of bothers me.
Mhm.
But yeah, dude, I'm definitely worried about the weight. I dropped like 5 pounds already, and
Well, that's good.
yeah. So I hope it's good. I didn't
Yeah,
know.
from a stomach standpoint, I think it's just time that you get some testing done and try to figure
I
out
know,
like
man.
what's wrong with it. You've been delaying that for too long.
Yeah, and
And
you've
we've
been
had
telling me.
we have got a bunch of people that we have access to. Gabrielle Lyon would probably be a good place to start, and because like you just kind of think of it this way, like what if you get some tests done, and what if it completely solves the problem, kind of forever?
Right.
Like
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
it's kind of a big deal, right?
That'd be huge.
Or even if it just mitigates the problem, like it just makes it a lot less.
Hmm.
It makes it a lot less of an issue. Um, and a lot of times too, like you probably get, unfortunately, you probably will get some tests done, and they probably won't know anything a couple times. It might happen a couple times, but at least you try, and then maybe you learn, and then maybe who knows? Maybe somebody just says, "Look, man, the truth is, you're just going to need some starches to kind of hold some of these foods together when
Hmm.
somebody will probably lead you down the right path, whether they're like, oh, you have this gut bacteria and you need this to destroy it,
Hmm.
and then you're fine in like 3 days. It probably won't be anything like that. A lot of times there's not like
Clear cut.
yeah, you find a
Hmm.
problem and you get like a cure.
Right.
Like it's not always like, oh, you got an ear infection. Here, take an antibiotic. Like it's kind of rare that you have things like
Hmm.
that where just the problem gets totally like eradicated. But
Yeah.
in this case, maybe it could just be something that helps.
Hmm. Yeah, because like I find myself craving, like I'll look at an orange and be like, dude, I really want that orange, and or I like Brussels sprouts,
Right.
so I'm like when I had steak with Brussels sprouts, I didn't have a problem. So I
Mm.
feel like, yeah, having something just to get the protein to
Yeah.
bind to,
Yep.
or adding more fat, like Paul Saladino was saying, I think would do me a lot of good.
It all like it's all very interesting. The carnivore diet is a really awesome thing, and we just got done with Aubrey Marcus being on the podcast, and he's a guy who does a lot of keto style dieting and
Hmm.
variations of. But like the this idea of switching over to like primarily eating meat probably should be just that idea of where you're trying to just eat meat, and you're trying to primarily eat more meat, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you can't eat anything else.
Hmm.
Because I think that we can sit here and argue and agree and disagree, and we can find all these different things to fight about and these things to agree upon. But I think that if we're being honest, I don't think there's any real reason to be like scared of plants,
Yeah.
like just overall. I mean, we're talking about kratom, we're talking about alpha brain. The things that are in alpha brain, things that are in kratom are from plants. Coffee is a bean, right? And there's seeds and there's plants and there's fruits and there's there's coconut, there's avocado, there's just there's these things have been around for a long time, and they have s- they have what appears to be they've been beneficial.
Mhm.
So like maybe like just not having them at all maybe is not great, but it's the reason why you try things,
Mhm.
and it's very obvious that it works for Sean Baker pretty well. Um, and I mean he's pretty strict on it. He doesn't really eat anything else. I think he eats butter. He
Mhm.
eats small amounts of other types of dairy, eggs, and I think steak.
Hmm.
and maybe he has like some salmon here and there or something. But and then Saladino was kind of the same way. You know, he was pretty meat oriented. He had like some liver and a couple other things, but like he didn't really deviate much from it.
Eggshells.
Eggshells, yeah, crazy bastard.
Yeah.
But then other people I've talked to, like Joel Green. Joel Green is a big believer that, you know, like, look, we probably need some plants. Dr. Davis, who we've had on the show before, he was a big proponent of, you know, trying to have, you know, a healthy gut bacteria, and he thought that a keto diet could be a keto diet taken too far without any carbohydrates can be, you know, going too far one way. And he didn't think you could have the positive balance in your stomach that you might need. And which, who knows? 'Cause it's hard to tell, because even someone who's very strict with keto doesn't just not eat carbs for the rest of their life, and there's carbs in everything. So
Mhm.
it's really hard to like determine some of these things. I think the main thing is you try stuff out for a while and you see how it works out. And maybe for you, just fucking eat an orange, you know, and don't really worry about it. Especially like if you think about like why we're doing some of these things. I mean, for you, it'd be great if we can find a diet that is a nice happy medium for your stomach that allows you to still succeed in the gym, which it seems like we're getting closer to.
Mhm.
Seems like we're figuring it out. It's been months that we've been working on this process, but look, sometimes these things don't take months. Sometimes they take years, right?
Right.
Um, but we'll work towards, you know, getting there, and we'll work towards figuring it out. But the good thing is we've done a lot of eliminating. We've gotten rid of a lot of things. And so maybe, you know, start to bring a couple things back in that don't really make you go too haywire or don't make you go off, then you know, maybe it'd be good. Like maybe throwing in an orange and throwing in a little bit of vegetables, like, probably
Mhm.
not a big deal. You know, I
Y
know Ron Penna, who I'm a huge like. I think Ron Penna is one of the smarter people we've ever had in the building, so that's why I bring him up all the time. Ron's like, I don't really eat vegetables. I don't think they matter that much, but he's like, when they're in my way, I eat them, and I think that he just said he doesn't think that it makes a lot of sense to not eat them at all. He doesn't think that like you need to go way out of your way to eat tons of vegetables, but he's like, I mostly just eat them at restaurants because it comes with your food,
Right.
you know? And so he's like, I'll just eat some damn green beans or what, like, it makes it easier.
Mhm.
And those are also things that never get talked about. Like, how does any of this fit into our life? How does it fit into our life? What was that?
I don't know.
How does it fit into our, you know, our lifestyle? And
Mhm.
how does it fit into, like your quality of life? If you look at what Paul Saladino was talking about. That was one of the things he mentioned was like, what's the quality of your life? You know, does um, eating a potato 3 times a week like enhance the way that you feel about food and keep you on track better and makes you feel good? He's like, screw it, I guess eat the damn potato.
Right. Yeah, I think for me, it's the opposite of what people, they think like, oh, if they can't go to the bathroom, they need more fiber. And what, Paul Saladino was saying, like, if you or I think it was Paul, I might be really getting smart people confused at this
Hmm.
point. But basically, if you give people who are constipated more fiber, it just makes them more constipated.
It can, yeah,
So I think maybe I need a little bit of fiber to kind of slow things down.
yeah,
So like a potato would be awesome for me. I
right,
think, who knows? We'll see.
right.
But the one thing that I've discovered since doing the carnivore diet was this fasting thing. I was telling Joey, I'm like, yeah, you kind of get this hunger like feeling early on. You kind of get through that wave and then you get another wave.
Hmm.
It's kind of like the double pooping second
Yeah,
wave. If you get through that second wave, your cognitive functions go through the roof. Your brain goes 1,000 miles per hour and you're not hungry whatsoever. You don't even care about food. You just want to crush the day. So that's something I'm going to implement in my diet for the rest of my life because I had never done it before till this year.
yeah, fasting is crazy, and they even say that like the longer you fast, the stronger that happens. Like that happens even more. So
Wow.
you can get into like if you do a I forget how many hours they say it is, but so like when you first wake up, just because of like we're so used to eating breakfast,
Hmm.
a lot of people will be enticed by the idea of eating breakfast. And then, you know, I don't know, 11 o'clock rolls around and you're like, holy shit. Like I haven't eaten all that kind of feeling of I haven't eaten all day thing starts to hit you, And then it might hit you again pretty hard at like 4, but then it's gone.
Yeah.
It like if you can hang in there, it's gone. Like I've gone before till like 6 p.m. and 8 p.m. and stuff, and I'm like, man, I just might as well just go another day,
Mhm.
And I've done that before. I've done a 48-hour fast, but I want to say it's past like a 20-hour mark where your body's like, you know what, screw it, man. We can yeah, we it's almost like something overrode the hunger hormone in your body and said, "Hey, you know what? We don't really need that hunger because we don't actually really need food. This is
Mhm.
kind of a false alarm. We checked. We got plenty of inventory,
Yeah.
of fat storage. We got plenty of that here, and
Right.
so we're gonna shut everything else down, and we're just gonna run off this fat for a
Mhm.
while. And that's how people are able to fast for like 72 hours and sometimes even longer.
Yeah, one thing I want to try once this month is over is I want to so I'll fast for the entire day, go to sleep, and then have a really awesome breakfast the next day. Because I love, I mean, we all love
Yeah.
breakfast, but like,
Hmm.
like French toast or something would be amazing.
Yeah.
You know, uh, through this carnivore diet, eating eggs has been such a huge celebration
So good.
because it's so good. And, I can't make scrambled eggs and reheat them here at work. Yeah, it could, but it wouldn't taste as great. So every time I eat eggs, it's always fresh right then and there. And it's been really great.
I love eggs. I know Ensema does a lot of fasting. He does he goes pretty long periods of time.
Hmm.
He's also very like regimented with like a schedule. And I think that kind of helps a lot too. It's because like he does his jujitsu around the same time every day
Hmm.
but I think he said he usually eats twice a day and he's able to, he's still
He's a
strong and
monster.
he's still jacked and
Hmm.
everything. But I also don't think that he really follows like a strict diet. But if you were to think about it, if you were to confine your food into just 2 meals for the day and it was kinda stacked towards the end, what would you choose to eat?
Right.
Especially, like, if you wanna be anything in the gym. I mean, you would almost automatically you'd go on autopilot and maybe you wouldn't eat like a bodybuilder or maybe you wouldn't eat, no carbs, but, like, I bet you would probably eat pretty healthy,
Hmm.
or at least 1 meal would be healthy, and then if you think about it that way, well, you had 1 meal that was healthy and 1 that was, like, iffy. That's probably better than most people, right? And
Yeah.
and maybe calorically, maybe you're okay too, because maybe you didn't. That's the hard thing about fasting is kind of making sure that once you do start eating, because that's fun, that you don't just really go like nuts. And and
Right.
and you can fill yourself up, but you know, um, you might want to try to be conscious of how you're doing it all.
Yeah, yeah, and for, people that are worried about losing muscle because of the fasting or whatever, is actually I read it recently in Aubrey Marcus's book that you maintain more muscle and drop more fat on with intermittent fasting than if you were to eat all day long but be in a caloric deficit.
Right,
So of course you can just be in a surplus and not lose anything, but
right.
you'll still be kind of slob.
Well, and there's some people too that I mean, like I think these areas just aren't looked at enough. Uh, But I would say that like if you train hard and you are to consume, I wouldn't even say surplus of calories, but you consume large amounts of calories and utilize intermittent fasting, I think that you would stimulate muscle growth with the training. Your fasting would stimulate and help you avoid burning and losing muscle, but you would also be burning and losing fat. And I think you can like there's a couple guys that I follow that do large amounts of fasting. They eat like once or twice a day. They eat like 5,000 calories at night. And this one guy in particular, he kind of goes overboard with it because he like he's got like pancakes and ice
Mm,
cream and like it's all part of a gimmick. He still is very conscious of how much he's eating. He pays attention to it, and it's some of it he just said is just kind of for views and for people to kind of follow along. He'd actually be in. I'll try to remember his name. He'd be great to get on the podcast. But he's not like insanely jacked or anything, but he's in good shape and he utilizes a lot of fasting. And I actually think that if they've did some studies on some of these people, you're going to see that they're probably able to consume maybe a little bit more calories than your average person. So like Lane Norton, he'll get kind of pissed about calorie deficit and calorie surplus. He's like, surplus means you're gaining weight. You can't gain weight without a calorie surplus, and you can't lose weight without a calorie deficit. But think that things are way more complicated than that. I think that just because you try to stretch doesn't mean you're going to get flexible. Like just because you are eating less calories doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to lose weight. Like even if we figured out scientifically, okay, Andrew, this is, you burn 2,200 calories every day. We're going to have you eat a little bit less than that, and you're going to lose 10 pounds in a month. I just don't think it. I think it can work that way, but I think that like your hormones are so different than somebody else's, and your hormones are so different than they were 3 years ago.
Right.
And they change all the time, and so it's definitely possible that you get yourself in a more favorable position to where you can consume more food and still burn fat. And that's, I think, what Stan's always trying to preach with the vertical diet.
hmm
He wants you to eat a lot more, whether you're trying to lose weight or trying to gain weight. And then there's a flip side to all this, which is like intermittent fasting, which throws a huge curveball in there. But I think, either method can be effective. It's a matter of being able to string it together and follow it for a long period of time.
Yeah, I've been craving some rice, some vertical diety food.
I like rice. I tend to kind of like want to overeat it or put other stuff on it though too.
hmm
Um, I really like potatoes a lot. I don't know why.
hmm
They're like dry, regular potato, but I like them.
Yeah.
And then I love sweet potatoes too. Those are amazing.
Yeah, and I've been before we started doing carnivore, I was eating those like little potatoes. They're like little, I don't know what they're called.
Yeah, fingerling potatoes. Yeah.
Yeah, and just boiling them the night before, and then throwing just some butter and
hmm
oh man, yeah,
Yeah, they're so good. Or just like dicing up some potatoes and just chucking them in the oven, making little like tots.
yeah.
Little chunks like that. Those are that's the way Andy usually cooks them. She usually chucks them in the oven.
Gotcha. So I'm assuming everything's been good with the carnivore diet and you.
Yeah, everything's been pretty
Your
good.
energy level's been through the roof.
Yeah, I've been feeling good. I've
Yeah.
been training hard and lifting some big weights and stuff, and yeah, all that's been good. I've been going bonkers over here.
Yeah. Do you think you're gonna keep going the rest of the year, or are you gonna?
Yeah, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go for a while. I might take like small breaks here and there
Mhm.
and mix in some like keto-ish foods rather than like just pure carnivore. But I'm liking it. I'm liking it so far. I don't know. Like when I lose a little bit more weight too, I don't know if I'll need to bring in some carbs or I'm not sure. But everything seems to be. I feel strong and I'm pretty damn lean. I think minus just the tan. I think that's the only difference between the bodybuilding show. Like when I was actually like on stage in like the last 2 weeks or whatever. Like I'm not there. I'm not that lean, but I'm at least close to where I was prep wise.
Mhm.
I feel like
Yeah, I think the biggest is just your shoulders. Right now,
Yeah.
they look a little bit more meaty,
right.
whereas before it was just like, oh my gosh, look at his shoulders.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
just all muscle. It looks sick, and it looks great now.
Right,
I
right.
think that's the only difference that I can see, though,
Yeah,
and the
yeah,
hair.
yeah, and that's like it's like like it's like a 5 pound difference probably. You know what I mean?
Jeez.
It's like it's probably not that much. It's probably
Yeah.
just dropping about 5 lbs. Yeah, because that is a weird thing with bodybuilding. When you get that tight, your like shoulders and shit just fucking pop out of everything. Doesn't matter what you're wearing or how you're wearing
Mhm.
it. It's just and you could kind of see it in people's like upper back too.
Mm.
Their upper back is all muscular and shit. It's like it's crazy. It's just a different look.
Yeah. Is Andy jumped on the carnivore train too?
She has, yeah.
Mhm.
She said she's gonna do carnivore week, and then she did a week of it, and she liked it, and she's back for more. She lost a couple lbs, so she's like, I'm gonna stick with it. It's a lot of
Cool.
fun. So yeah, she's she's sticking with it, which makes it easier,
Mhm.
and you got both of us are doing it, and she won't be as weird as me. Like when we go to a restaurant, I'll order like two different meats and tell them not to bring any vegetables or whatever. She just kind of like rolls with it, and she's like, fuck it, I'll just eat some of the vegetables. She doesn't care as much, and I think that's fine. I think that's fine. I think the idea is to recognize that the meat is the main source of our fuel, And it's a good thing for people to try. I'm not saying that it's the end all be all of diets, but it's a good thing for everybody to try. And stop having snacks, stop having desserts, stop having appetizers, stop filling yourself up with stuff that you really don't need. It's just stuff that you want. And like, allow yourself to get hungry. It's important to be hungry. And when you get hungry and there's a steak in front of you, you're gonna fucking demolish it, 'cause you're
Yeah.
gonna be like, "This holy shit, this is so good." Steak is always, it's always amazing. Reheating it and stuff like that's not always, like, my favorite, but I could still crush that pretty good, especially if it's just, like, once a day,
Hmm.
twice a day, something like that. But, usually I get home and I just cook it up fresh, and it's freaking awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, we're definitely gonna remain like silly carb free forever. Like just switching over to keto diet at the end of last year, it really helped out Stephanie's, whatever going on with her wrist.
Mhm.
And then so she didn't go full on carnivore, but it just because she's low carb, like it makes everything so much easier.
Right.
So we're gonna stick like this forever. Like I don't want to change. I don't want any like my back feels amazing now. Like I don't want to ever go back.
Right, and there's might be times, where you stick in some potatoes and some rice here and there, but, like, it still doesn't have to be this, onslaught of carbohydrates,
Correct.
50, 100 grams, and some people listening, they're like, "Man, I don't get it, like, I eat 300 grams a day and I'm strong as an ox." Well, it's just a little different for each person, and, for whatever reason, some people, adapt really well to certain ways of eating. I personally think that a carbohydrate-rich diet is just too hard for most people to follow. I think that there's just too much fat in all of our foods, and it's too inconvenient to try to ever eat out anywhere, because you just get way too much fat. They're gonna give you, like, if you go to a restaurant, and even without even without being, like, gluttonous, and without, like, going over the top, you're probably gonna get, like, 60 grams of fat in your food. And it's like, well, if you're eating 300 grams of carbs a day, or 200 grams of carbs a day, you just blew your fat allowance on your, on that one meal. So now
Mhm.
you probably have kind of doubled what you were supposed to eat for the day, which I don't know. I just don't think there are ways of doing it. Bodybuilders do a good job, and they get, like, fat-free this and fat-free that, and they eat egg whites and fat-free cottage cheese and fat-free yogurt, and but those guys are so regimented. I just don't see anybody else being able to do that. It's too hard.
Mhm.
It's like, good luck trying to eat 60 grams of fat in a day. It's fucking impossible.
Yeah, and it's all gonna come from like stuff you didn't even want. Like you're gonna order broccoli and be like, "Oh, I did good," and it's like, "Oh wait, it was drenched in some kind of like something," you know?
Yeah, yeah, and right, and yeah, like, okay, so it made it taste a little bit better, but it really isn't. I just that's why I'm just, I see these different posts from people, and somebody made a post today, said, eat slow carbs, don't eat no carbs, and people have all these messages. You got to find out what's right for your body, and I'm just like, oh my god, this is fucking stupid. It's just dumb. It's like, what's right for your body is not any of these processed foods that have been around. These newer foods that have been around. That's not where the magic is. It's going to happen from, some sort of meat sources, some sort of protein source. And then, yes, you can eat some carbohydrates here and there, and there's some fruits and some vegetables and some things you can have. But uh, this idea of, like, eat everything in moderation and balance and stuff, it's just not working.
Yeah. I like what Aubrey says. He says moderation in moderation.
Right.
So, like, yeah, if you are gonna try to have the healthy broccoli, it's like you're gonna probably get the same amount of fat as you would just go grab like a chocolate chip cookie.
Right.
Like just indulge if you need to, but
Right.
don't act like you're some saint because you ordered
Hmm.
the correct healthy option, even though it's still bullshit because you're at Spaghetti Factory.
No, a lot of people think they're going to do something great for themselves, and, like, I'm going to get a salad, and it's like,
Nah.
now if you're going keto, it makes it easier, because it doesn't matter as much, but it's still a lot of calories to consume. And if you have, you get ranch dressing on your, or Caesar dress. I mean, man, I've seen the stats on some of these things. They might have 50 grams of fat, and that was like your warm up. That was your pre-meal thing that you had before you ate your steak.
Oh man.
You just go over like 100 grams of fat in one meal. You
Yeah,
know?
or me with my heavy cream in my
Oh, yeah.
protein shake. I
Yep.
almost died
24 ounces of heavy cream.
to the face.
Never been done before. All right, everybody. Hope you enjoyed the show. Huge shout out to Aubrey Marcus and ONNIT for just being motivational without even knowing it, man. Those guys they're great people. Aubrey's awesome. Our boy Kyle Kingsbury's down there as well. And it's been great linking up with those guys. And it's been awesome having Aubrey on the show today. Strength is never weakness. Weakness never strength. Catch you guys later.